I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm looking a bit tired. That's because we're back in lockdown, and so just trying to figure out workspaces in the home for home ed and work and everything else. Anyway, so just really quickly wanted to pop on and say, talk through how to write a comprehensive birth plan that is not overwhelming for the healthcare professionals, but ensures that it is very clear of what is important to you and what you want and what you don't want. So I always suggest and encourage people to start off by thinking about, go through all the standard procedures that I did a little video on, and think about which of those are you comfortable with, which of those are you not comfortable with, and start there really. So write down what your optimal birth looks like, or birthing experience looks like, and then taking into account, how do you feel about vaginal examinations? How do you feel about intermittent monitoring every 15 minutes during the first stage of labor, and every 5 minutes, or after every surge or contraction, depending on what language you're using, in the birthing phase of labor? Think about once your baby has been born, as soon as your baby has been born and placed on your chest, do you want the cord clamping to be delayed by 1 minute, which is the current NICE guidelines? NICE stands for National Institute for Clinical Excellence. Or do you want to wait for optimal cord clamping, which is where you wait for white? Or do you want to leave the cord intact? And then thinking about, I guess before the placenta is delivered, do you want a physiological third stage of labor, which means that the placenta will just come away from the uterine wall naturally and be expelled from the body? Or do you want a synthetic oxytocin injection to speed things up? And so useful to think about what are the benefits and risks of doing that. And then thinking about the environment. So there was another video that I did, thinking about what do you want the lighting to be like? What do you want? Just go through the 5 senses, thinking about what sounds do you want to hear, what do you want to see, what do you want to taste, what do you want to smell, and what do you want to feel. So just thinking about those things, and remembering that you can bring them into your birthing environment. Then I think it's really useful if you just kind of bullet that's really useful. Then it's also really useful to think about if things don't go according to plan. For example, and I always kind of think like right at the other end of the spectrum. So perhaps an unmedicated, unassisted vaginal birth is your optimal choice, and the other end of the scale is an unplanned cesarean situation. You can still have, thinking about from an environment perspective, what do you still want to have around you? Thinking about cord clamping, what is really important to you and what you not mind so much about. Thinking about feeding, do you want your baby to be breastfed, or do you want your if you and your baby need to be separated for medical reasons, do you want your baby to have your colostrum? Are you comfortable with your baby being given formula? These are all kinds of things that would be really useful in thinking about. Another thing that's really useful to think about is just remembering that adrenaline and oxytocin and how they work against each other. And just so it's useful to think about when a healthcare professional, or anybody for that matter, so if you have a birthing partner, maybe your mum is with you, or a doula, when somebody else comes into your space, thinking about do you want them to talk to you or not? Do you want them to ask you? Do you want the healthcare professionals to ask you every 15 minutes when they want to do intermittent monitoring? They will need your consent. Are you happy for them to ask you, or would you prefer them to ask your partner, who then relays that request to you? Some women find it really quite distracting having somebody who's not in her immediate kind of birth space, or who hasn't been with her throughout the whole process, to be starting to ask her questions. Some women find it really useful to be coached through the birthing phase. Other women don't want anybody to tell them what to do, or to offer suggestions or guidance at all. So those are all things that are really useful for you to kind of just think about. And if you can kind of do a bit of a brainstorm, and then if you would like, and get it down on paper, if you would like, send it to me and I can have a quick look over it and offer some guidance and pointers on things that perhaps you might find perhaps you hadn't thought about, or need a bit more thought. And it's also really useful to just, at the top of your birth plan, just introduce yourself. Hi, I'm so and so, and you know, this is this is my partner, and we'll be supported by our doula, and or my mum will be looking after my other children or child, or whatever your specific situation is. And then it's really useful to kind of just outline in one sentence, just kind of summarize exactly what it is that is important to you, and how you are grateful that they will support you in the decisions that you have made. I remember seeing a birth affirmation card at one of my clients' homes, at her home birth, that said, I respect your right to share information. Please respect my right to decide what's best for me. And I thought that was fantastic. So remember to get the information, find someone to support you, and feel empowered in your birthing process. And I hope that's useful. I'll speak to you soon.